Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 in season 2 of My Genesis, My Story. So, those of you who watched the Golden Axe video may remember I made a remark to the effect that, unless people really like it and really demand more in that style, I wasn't planning to do more videos in this series director's commentary style. In that moment, I forgot I had already planned to do this video with the Pink Ranger helmet, and there was no real way I was going to be able to talk to the camera with that thing on while playing and be heard properly. It's one thing to wear it, but another to speak and have the mic pick you up clearly. Maybe if it was a custom helmet that actually fit 100% properly, and instead of the kind of one-size-fits-all like cosplay helmet, which actually does fit, except there's like these plastic bands inside, which I don't know if I was just being an idiot, and maybe they're adjustable in some way that I didn't notice, but they squeezed the ever-loving hell out of my head. It was really hurting by the end, but it was worth it for the end result. So yeah, as you saw, I'm switched to the Retro Bit 6-button controller, the clear pink version. Aside from looking cool and being a really nice controller that's very close to the feel and build quality of the original Sega manufactured controllers, I also wanted to start to bring some awareness for fighting breast cancer this month for October. When I filmed Vector Man at the beginning of August, I wasn't sure where it was going to land, and October started in the middle of a week, so it just it didn't really fit as part of the plan to kind of raise breast cancer awareness during the month of October. But we started with this one. So as cute as it is with the whole spiel about like save the tatas and all that, and I appreciate them as much as any good lesbian, but the most important thing is to save the women. So, girls, get yourself checked. Don't worry about what someone else thinks. Don't worry about stigmas. Make sure you take care of yourselves. I'll be putting links in the description to some resources. I figured most anyone can just, if they have concerns, can talk to their doctor or plug something into a search engine and find stuff. But you never know. If putting one link in a description, helps one person out with some concern, then it's definitely worth the few extra seconds for me to paste that in. Yeah, the game. I'd say this is among the better Power Rangers games of its day, from the ones I've played. I think the Super Nintendo game is pretty close. It might actually be a little better, except for the fact that it's only one player, which really sucks. But this game, it's frustrating because it's running on a good engine. The sprites look good. The music's awesome. The game runs smoothly, the controls are responsive. It has a lot of the moves you would expect from a beat-em-up of its time. You've got your dash attack, got decent combos. You can do different kinds of jumping attacks. You got a special attack. You got 2-player mode. It looks good. It plays well. Like the bones of a really good beat-em-up are here, but and Sims usually does good work. I really love what they do. Outrun 2019, anyone? It's freaking awesome. I feel like this game was probably rushed in development to, you know, naturally take advantage of, you know, the hype surrounding the release of the movie, of course. You gotta have that marketing tie-in. It's more important that it matches the release date, so kids will buy it along with the movie release, you know, instead of making it the best possible product that you can. So I feel like that's probably most of the blame, you know, along with the fact that, you know, every single platform, even if we're just talking Sega, is getting different versions of the same thing. So even if you look at them with the same cover, like, you're getting different games on the Game Gear, the Genesis, the Super Nintendo, Game Boy, like, it's all... it's a big hot mess, if you're trying to sort them all out. Which, on one hand, it's cool, because that gives more variety, and that means there's different developers got a chance to have different takes on the franchise. But I think in Sega's case, it might have been better to, instead of splitting the efforts so far and so thin, to maybe just concentrate on kind of making the Genesis version like the definitive Sega version, and then just base the Game Gear off of that. But another thing where I feel like this was either rushed, or the people making the game really preferred the series over the movie, and they just kind of, like, they were forced to make the movie tie-in, but they really wanted to have the game based more on the show. So they kind of, like, speedrun through the story here of the movie. Like, this is a classic case of where you should show and not tell. They're really, really speedrunning the story. Like, this part is, like, we should be playing this. We should be fighting the Skeleton Warriors and the Gargoyles and meeting these characters. Like, we basically skipped that entire chunk of the story that could potentially be interesting. I mean, they would have had to make new sprites for the Ninja Power Rangers, but I don't know. It feels really awkward to be playing Power Rangers the movie, but most of the game is skipping over the movie. Like, I know the movie is cheesy and most people think it's terrible, but it's like, it still kind of defeats the point, though. So it would definitely have been interesting to, if there is any documentation or footage surviving from that development process, I'd be very interested to see what really went on over there. But yeah, the other frustrating thing is that, yeah, this game is, it's so close to being a classic. And, like, it's good if you're a Power Rangers fan, and if you're a really big fan of beat-em-ups. You know, I fit both of those, you know, categories. So, you know, I am the target demographic, but, this game is so repetitive, like, I feel like the playtesting must have just gone toward making sure the controls were smooth and responsive, and that the moves worked correctly, and you know, the game's optimized well enough as far as, like, it's got a good frame rate, there's no real sprite flicker, there's not a lot of, like, technical flaws to really ding at it. It's just a matter of, like, it's ungodly repetitive. Like, even if we had to fight nothing but Oozmen for a whole level, like, at least do some palette swaps, or, you know, maybe change some of their behaviors, maybe give some of them, like, weapons or projectiles, or, you know, maybe some of them can have a different role in combat, and you have to use a different strategy, you know, especially in a two-player game. But nah, it's just the same freaking thing over and over. And I can't figure out how to break that grapple for the life of me. I've tried special, I tried jump, attack, different combinations. I can't figure out how to break free. The one move that I forgot to make use of in this playthrough is, for some doofus reason, I didn't look at the manual until after I finished the playthrough. There is a charge attack you can do by holding down B. I think it uses either the Power Rangers special weapon or their blaster. So it might be a ranged attack. That might have been something I could have used to make my life a little easier. Yeah, otherwise you do have dash attack, you have special attack. If you're running and then jump and attack, you do a jump kick, and then you can do a jumping punch. And then if you're standing still, jump and attack, you can do that really sweet looking backflip, which will be useful later on, you'll see. Yeah, it just needed more variety of enemies, and it needed to have a better variety of stages. Again, like if they'd used more from the actual movie, that would have helped. Like those gargoyles, or some other boss creatures. Again, like just anything. For the love of the gods, it just needed more variety. And then this timer, I don't know what someone was thinking. Like, a lot of games had these. Like Streets of Rage has it, but you really have to be super lazy and/or like unbelievably conservative in your playstyle to run the clock out in Streets of Rage. It's more so about determining your score. This thing, I don't know what someone was thinking, because like, I mean, maybe it was balanced around 2 players. Maybe if 2 people can get through this without the timer getting dangerously close. It's just irritating because the enemies don't even come at you fast enough most of the time to defeat the timer. And then once the timer hits 0, your health starts ticking away, and it's just it gets more irritating later because there's some boss encounters that are tied to it. It's like, even if you're figured out exactly what moves you can do that'll kind of more consistently hit the boss, it's like, how am I supposed to deplete this guy's life bar in time to beat the timer? That's so this, even on hard, actually I don't even remember if I tried it on easy or normal. I imagine it's probably just the enemies take fewer hits to defeat or have shorter health bars, which I guess works out to be the same. Or maybe the timer's more generous. So, I mean, this is a pretty easy game. I'd say definitely compared to Streets of Rage for sure, but even compared to Turtles the Hyperstone Heist or Double Dragon or any of the other beat-em-ups, I haven't played Growl, but I'd imagine it's easier than Growl. And certainly Battletoads, that's for sure. So I mean, this is a good one for your kids, especially, if you got a youngster that has maybe just started getting into Power Rangers. It might be a good one to play, with your kids. Especially if you're a Power Rangers fan from the 90s, and you want to relive some of that, the vibe and the aesthetic of the classic 90s Power Rangers. And then, get your kid introduced to it. Because I'd imagine it feels less repetitive with 2 players, at least because you can probably mow through the bad guys faster, and plus in these kinds of games, there's usually automatically an increased fun factor just by doing it with a friend or a family member or partner. And of course, if you both love the franchise, you can it's kind of like you're celebrating it together, and you can act like you're in the arcade or... But as a single-player game, I can only recommend this to big fans of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in particular, like myself, or people who, love to collect for the Genesis or Mega Drive, and those especially who are big fans of FM synth on the aforementioned Mega Drive. Now, I fit all 3 of those, so... And this game, even with the box, was not expensive at all, so, I don't regret this pickup, but this is one I would only recommend if you tick all of the boxes I just mentioned, and you can find it cheap. If you're even remotely skeptical, you can just pick up a cartridge only for really cheap, or if you just want to give it a tester run, and maybe fire it up in an emulator of your choice. If you do that, I would just recommend make sure you do it in one that's of a high quality and can do justice to the amazing music in this game. The only downside, I guess I should back up what I said about there being no major technical flaws. There is one programming flaw, and I don't know if this is something that could have been ironed out with a longer dev time and just more polished, but the sound effects do cut off parts of the sound channels in the music a little too much. Like, often the voice samples will temporarily kill off the drum pattern and some other parts, which in the heat of the gameplay you don't really notice too much, but once you've listened to the music quite a bit, especially in the sound tests, and I've gotten really intimately familiar with it, it can be a little jarring. So I guess that's the one thing that I will take points away from on this. Not that any kind of grading system matters here. Again, I have the time here with the length of this video to kind of basically do a review of the game, but I'm hesitant to ever do just a straight up game review. Like, it's been done to death. And I would recommend you not do it if you have a newer YouTube channel. Like, with new releases, there's probably a window for you to add some nuance to the discussion, but like, retro games, it's just kind of like, it's not that I want to ever tell anyone, like, don't bother, because there's still, your own perspective and history with something you can add to the discussion, but as far as just doing a journalistic review, it's kind of like, it's just been done to death, and there's really nothing else to add, from a factual point of view. Unless there's something that has had a lot of misinformation circulated around it, and that rarely gets corrected, maybe. But I'm thinking of stuff like, Classic Game Room and all that, and then of course, you got AVGN has the parody covered, and channels like that. It's kind of a problem with oversaturation, where it's like, none of this media online is subject to natural selection. It's not going anywhere. It's not, unless it gets copyright stricken, I should say, and removed or deleted by its creator, like, it's basically here in perpetuity. So at a certain point, it's kind of like, there's so much here, it's almost like, how is anyone possibly supposed to watch even close to all of it? And that's just in the video game hobby, much less anything else you could be watching on the old YouTube here. But yeah, that's a whole other wheel of cheese. I'd say these boss battles, although it's really cool to control the Zords, jeez, I almost called them Zoids, like that's... what a nerdy faux pas. It does feel a little stiffer. I mean, these are robots, so I think that's natural, but it's probably more so that the bosses just have some really cheap moves, and at this point I know how to get around most of them. You kind of attack from their flanks, you can usually get in there and do a combo and take them out pretty fast, but sometimes if they hit you with a grapple or throw, there's not really any good escape option. I don't know if you play in 2-player, if your second player can free you from an enemy's grapple or a throw. If so, maybe that would be a way to balance that out. Here's an example. I hate to, I don't want to sound like a bitch, because for one thing, the writing of the game is what it is, like, it's not going to change. But in the localization, I do feel like I didn't see anything misspelled, or, like, any egregiously bad grammar. It's more so, like, it's kind of what you see with beginner writers, where they overdo it with, what is it, adverbs. Not so much in this scene, but I think the next cutscene is worth pointing out. But yeah, I cried a little bit inside my helmet when I saw the picture of Tommy there. When he gets the White Ranger powers. I'm still reeling from the loss of Jason David Frank. Like, I'm not gonna even remotely try to compare how I feel to what his family is going through, or you know, the people that work with him on the show, or his movies. You know, all the lives he directly touched. But yeah, that really, if we're talking, you know, celebrity heroes, you know, heroes from my fandoms, Jason, along with Leonard Nimoy, was kind of like two of the biggest punches in the heart that I've received. It's not that Miss Chang's loss was any less tragic. I think that just happened to be... I feel bad, because at that time that she passed, like, I didn't realize it. I don't remember what else was happening at the time. I thought that she had just retired from acting and pursued a different career, and it was only quite a bit after the fact that I realized that she had tragically passed, and... you know, obviously it's so heartbreaking because she was still so incredibly young and still has so much to offer. But Jason, it's I guess because I kind of had a little bit of a bi panic with him. One of the very few times where I'm like, okay, maybe this male character is actually a little attractive. But it's just, more so just like, it's kind of that Keanu Reeves effect of like, just ridiculously charismatic, and like, you can just feel the energy and the passion for his work, like, come through in the character and the performance, and it was really inspiring to me as a youngster. And this show was very inspiring, and it came right on the cusp of the Ninja Turtles losing steam and popularity. I mean, they never fully died out, but I think the cartoon kind of ended up spinning its gears, and I think for a lot of people overstayed its welcome, and then there was just an oversaturation of turtle stuff out there, and I think it burned a lot of people out. And I never stopped having affection for them. The thing was, with the relentless bullying and everything else that I endured, I was desperate for anything that would make me appear cooler, because I was convinced that, well, if people think that I'm cool and hip with the trends, and, you know, and watching the things that the other kids are watching, that, you know, I'll be more accepted, you know. And that wasn't the right way to think about it, but, you know, when you're a kid, you know, you come to strange conclusions, and yeah, you don't have the experience and the wisdom to really, like, see the bigger picture and understand that, you know, you just need to like what you like. And it doesn't matter if it happens to be popular or not. Like, sometimes things are popular for a good reason, because they're just damn good and they appeal to a lot of people. And sometimes something just lands in the right place at the right time with the public just in a certain mindset to accept it and roll with it. Yeah, Power Rangers came at a time when even I was feeling a little bit of the fatigue of the Turtles, and this was the first show, because of the footage used from Super Sentai. It was really my first taste of anything that originally came from Japan, as far as a TV show. I'm sure some of the cartoons that I had already watched at that point, you know, didn't have an American origin, but this was really my first taste of, like, big robots fighting and, like, you know, actors in cheesy costumes on cardboard sets fighting big, ugly, weird monsters. And yeah, then afterwards I discovered that I do indeed enjoy Godzilla movies. So I can thank Power Rangers and its adaptation of Super Sentai with the addition of an American teenage, like, sitcom and action. It's like it's a really weird hybrid when you break it down and put it on paper. It's like, I don't know if this should have worked, but it surely did. It's still great fun. And as I'm sure was the case with many people, basically anyone with an attraction to women, I think Amy Jo Johnson was like the awakening. like, oh yes, I am indeed attracted to women. And this is why. You just point to her and it's like, yes. But I think what else resonated with me as a kid, and I didn't have the vocabulary or the understanding to express this in those days, but I think the natural diversity of the cast and different kinds of friends and characters that the Rangers meet in their adventures, it did help me. I think it's one of those things that helped at least insulate a little bit of my mind from a lot of the bigotry that I was raised around, where at least some space was made in my heart and my mind to be open to other ways of thinking, other kinds of people, people of different abilities. And that there's nothing wrong with that. Like, the world's a big place. It's it doesn't just revolve around you or your community or your country. It's like, it takes all kinds. So I am grateful for this show. Like, even with all of its cheesiness and quirks and odd production values and sometimes strange choices, and you know, and I'm not naive. You know, I realize that, you know, at the crux of a lot of it, you know, there's someone that saw an opportunity to localize Super Sentai and make money off of it. And, you know, of course, it was like the Turtles, it was a merchandising goldmine. You know, the figures and all the toys and tie-ins sold like madhouse. And I'm sure it was very profitable to only have to film part of the show and just reuse a bunch of footage that already existed. But, you know, that aside, I'm still grateful that it got made and that the people who really made the show happen, you know, the actors and the writers and the people, you know, doing the sets and the costumes and the music and all that, like, really put a lot of passion and creativity into this, and really turned something that should have been kind of a silly disaster into just an incredibly charming and inspiring show. Now, part of the story that I do feel bad about is, in keeping with that notion of always trying to be cool and hip, and I think when the Power Rangers were getting toward the end of the run, and by this point, what is it, Season 3, I think? You know, by a certain point, most of the original actors had been replaced, and there was never any offense or any ill will or negativity directed toward the new actors, or the new characters even. It's just, I did lose some interest. I mean, when you lose Jason, Trini, and Zach, like, in one fell swoop, and then later on Kimberly, and it's just like, damn, you know, I still like the show, but I got so invested in these characters and the people portraying them. It's like, and then, you know, Power Rangers, like the Turtles, never fully died off, and, you know, eventually it remanifested into a new incarnation, which ended up becoming a running theme with the Rangers, and now there's, like, I can't even think of all the different iterations. But it was one of those things that, when they were no longer cool with the kids that I was stupidly trying to fit in with, I didn't really follow the Rangers as much at that point. And then for whatever disagreements I may have with my parents, you know, something I can't take away from them is they did, you know, my needs as a kid were met as just far as, like, a roof over my head and being fed and, you know, bed to sleep on and, you know, the basics. And the Christmas after Power Rangers really blew up, and the toys were red hot, credit where it's due, and they got me the full set of the Rangers, so I had the original 5, and then I had the Green Ranger figure. Now, looking back, those figures were probably not very great quality. I think they had very limited articulation and and all that, but... Oh, I did make one mistake here. So this is a weird level where you don't go from left to right toward the end, like, you have to go through a hidden exit, but you only have to go through one of them. I mistakenly went through a second one, and then you get ambushed by Lord Zed here in a very Gunstar Heroes looking boss level. Which, once you pick up on the pattern, it's pretty easy, but yeah, this is completely skippable. I was just being a goober. I think already by this point the helmet had been squeezing my head enough to where I was starting to get a headache. There was a point where I almost thought I might have to take this off and pause the game and split the video into 2 and then just edit it together later just to give my head a break. I was like, nah, no, I gotta commit to the bit. I figured it would probably end up hurting worse to put it back on after my head tries to relieve the pressure, so I just ended up sticking with it. But I do try to adjust it at a few points to bear with it, but yeah, I felt horrible because, like, the following year after they got me those figures, you know, my dumbass, you know, I was helping out my grandparents. They used to do garage sales, like, every summer. They were kind of famous for it in their neighborhood for a while. My grandpa was a big trader. Like, he was always finding something at a flea market and managing to clean it up and fix it up, or figuring out, like, who would pay for it, and, you know, of course, he would always come out ahead in some way. Like, I think he famously once traded, like, a set of tools for a car. I don't know. He was some kind of sorcery there with his reselling, but yeah, I got my first taste of, like, earning my own money. Like, I think I had already started, like, doing, like, odd jobs and chores for my family at that point to earn a few bucks, but when I figured out, like, oh, I can sell some stuff at the garage sale and, like, raise my own money, and then I can buy some of the new stuff that the other kids have. And I was an idiot, and I freaking sold my Ranger toys at that garage sale, or probably over the course of a couple garage sales. And I regret that. It's like, damn, my parents really went through the effort that year to get all the figures, you know, and make sure that I didn't have any duplicates. Like, I just got the one of each, and, like, here's my dumbass turning right around and callously selling them. And I'm sure at the time, you know, my stupid hormonal mind was like, rationalized it, like, well, I guess if I really missed them, I could always get them back easily enough. It's like, nah, no. It don't work like that. I mean, sometimes you can get away with that, but... Goldar, he's such a bitch. I really question the playtesting on this boss fight, like... especially with the time that you're given. He loves to hide off the screen, and very rarely can you hit him when he's on the ground. I'm sorry, I just hit the mic. I'm such a goober. I'm not even wearing the helmet right now, and I still was, like, clumsily bonking the microphone. Yeah, and I think at also around the same time, like, the very first used game stores were popping up. Like, for my area at least. I'm sure, like, in other parts of the country there had already been some doing their thing for a while, but the first one near me was just called Video Game Exchange, and for me it was incredible. It's like, oh, you'll give me money for these games and I can get this game? I naively didn't realize the whole spiel of like, well yeah, but they're only gonna give you, if you're lucky, half of what you paid for the game. Or half of what they're gonna turn around and sell it for. You know, I was young and took the name of the store literally, and I thought, oh, you can, like, exchange one game for another. And that really never worked out. Like, at best, you might be able to trade 2 for 1. So, I got burned a few times. Actually, I think the very copy of Star Trek The Next Generation on Genesis I have right now came from that store. I remember I traded a few games that I was like... I was really happy to get the game that I traded them for, but I also had instant regret. I was like, oh wait a minute, now I can't go back and play the others when I want to. It's like... you know, and I got scolded pretty badly from my dad about that. It's like, well, you know, but you're all the ones that drove me there, and, you know, parents were required to sign off on kids doing any trades, so it's kind of like, couldn't you have maybe, like, explain this to me before the transaction instead of letting me go through with it like an idiot? It's like, but, you know, my dumbass, I didn't learn enough from that. Like, there's a few more instances later on where it's like, I should not have done that trade. Like, a few years later, I uncovered the family's original NES and a stack of games in the basement. It had been chilling there for a while, and it was like... you know, I had affection for it and nostalgia for it even then. You know, this was like late 90s. Been late 90s. But again, I was operating under the assumption of like, well, I guess if I ever have a burning desire to play these again, it should be easy enough to find. And to my credit, that stuff was mostly dirt cheap back then. Like, I'm sure there were games like Little Samson were already going for stupid money, but most NES games at that point was like, you'd have trouble giving them away in a lot of cases. Like, you know, Funko Land was selling the things for like change. There was like a $5 for stuff like Mario. So I did take them to Funko Land. I ended up putting the money... I think I left it on my account to put toward the PS2 when it launched. Because I got the PlayStation 2 on its original launch day in North America. And I think when I saw that NES in the basement, all I could think of was like, oh, this will help me get the PS2, get the hot new item. And years later, turn around like, yeah, I ended up having to reacquire an NES. Yeah, this is another instance where I think this, more than anything, is where I got the impression that the people making this really wanted to just do another game based on the series, and not the movie. Because this is a flashback to when the original Red, Black, and Yellow Rangers have to transfer their powers to Rocky, Aisha, and... Oh, shoot. I'm so sorry. I feel like an asshole. I forgot. Adam, I think. The second Black Ranger. Jeez. So, yeah, here we're playing basically part from the series and not the movie. We have to fight Goldar again. Now, I know that's kind of keeping to the spirit of the series, because they fight Goldar a hell of a lot, and he's always a bitch, and he always runs away just when the Rangers finally have a chance to finish him off for good. It's still annoying. Yeah, I've been keeping with the theme of playing as Kimberly as much as possible, but I did want to give Trini a little bit of time, and I figured I was always playing as the White Ranger, Zord, so that was my way of paying tribute to Jason, David, Frank, and Tommy a little bit. This level sucks. It's... like, I can tolerate a lot of the nonsense from the rest of the game. This is where my patience starts to wear a little thin. Partly because of the stupid Goldar boss fight, but you'll see. And unlike the Super Nintendo game, I don't think the special attacks change from Ranger to Ranger here. I think it's all the same. And I don't even think they're that different in the Super Nintendo game functionally, they just aesthetically look different. They're based on the each Ranger's Zord. Yeah, eventually Goldar flies away. I don't know if there's a minimum amount of health you have to take off, or if it's just timing based. But... so this part, maybe if there's a pattern to the these flaming meteors, I guess, then I haven't figured it out yet. Although I think the last time that I played this, I didn't get screwed over quite as badly by these things, but also I could be wrong. Maybe I have to play it again to confirm, but I think the coins that you get, because each one is a different Ranger token, and some give you points, some give you an extra life, and some just gives you more vitality. I think which ones you get are randomly generated. I could be wrong, but I'm quite sure the last time I played this, I got at least one vitality up, which really helps you get through, because I got hit a lot. And every coin I picked up here was like, okay, I keep getting points, but I need some more health. Yellow Ranger needs health badly. And I don't think there's any iframes you can really take advantage of either. I think maybe there is a brief one when you throw an enemy, but I don't think so. Yeah, and every time a coin dropped, I was like, okay, yes, help, yeah, you can see my silent exasperation. It was like, I almost had the one credit clear, and I feel like I got done dirty a little bit here, but I will also give myself some grace to realize that, like, wearing the helmet was a bit of a handicap, because my head was 45 minutes in, my head was really hurting. It was one of those things where, like, it kind of went from 0 to 100, where it's like, okay, you know, wearing this thing's not so bad, it's manageable. And, like, it didn't hurt at all until it hurt a lot. Probably doesn't help as well, you know, I've got a lot of hair going on and I didn't probably didn't fully take care of it enough, but I felt like if I put it in a ponytail or bun, then it would make the helmet fit more awkwardly, so I was like, I'll just go with this. Yeah, boss time. The music makes it all worthwhile. And I almost hate to say it, because I don't want it to just crap on someone else's work, but the graphics for the boss and Ivanhoe's look better than the movie. Oh, it was just such bad mid-90s CG. Like, old CG can sometimes have a charm to it. Or the stuff that was really well done for its time, like Terminator 2 still holds up really well. There's the stuff in that, but Power Rangers the movie, oof. It didn't even work then. it's very unfortunate. But yeah, here it looks cool. Yeah, that was the move. I haven't figured out. I don't think there's a way to break that again, unless the second player can do that. Booger Man, oh jeez. That's so... That's like such a mid-90s forced kid humor thing. I do really like the line scrolling in this level, like... Like, really, I no complaints in the graphics on this game. I mean, it's not pushing things like, you know, it's no Musha or Thunder Force 4 or Red Zone or even Toy Story, but yeah, it looks pretty good for a beat-em up of its time, you know, for a licensed game, something that was probably done on a really short development cycle. And it's a damn fine rendition of the Power Rangers theme, I'll tell you that. Yeah, it's weird, you don't even have to deplete the final boss's health, like, you just have to get it down to a certain threshold, so. Yeah. There you go. That was Power Rangers the movie on Genesis, on hard. I can only recommend it to certain peeps, but, for its target audience, it's a good game for its time. It just needed more time in the oven. And this is the point in the video where I was like, okay, I've done the work. I need to take this helmet off, please. I've done my part. Now you do yours, game. Yeah, I think I passed up the best example of... It's just awkward when the way you write said skull. When you say skull said, for example, the repetition doesn't really, like, your brain just skips past it. But when you use all these, like, a lot of special adjectives, or you do it in a you rearrange the way you write those sentences, it stands out too much and it becomes awkward. Like, even here, if it just was bulk said as the crowd laughed, like, it would just work more smoothly. But those other parts where it was like, Aisha yelled, or Rocky cried, it's like, it's trying to come off as more advanced writing than it really is. To newbie writers, just don't overdo it with your adverbs. But yeah, that's that about does it for the episode. I'm just gonna let the credits roll here and let you all enjoy the music. So we'll be back next week. I'm not gonna spoil what the episode is. We will be continuing some Fem Power with another awesome lady of Sega to continue to raise awareness for fighting breast cancer in the month of October. And gives me that much more reason to continue using my awesome pink ribbon controller. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you were entertained by the gameplay and my story. Hopefully learned something. But may the power be with you, and stay Mega Driven.